G'day YouTube, warbles on a lot here. This is my ancestral bar of lead, which I think my father originally bought for the purposes of casting some rowboat anchors. It's had a bit chiselled off that end. But most of the ingot is intact. Today I'm going to use some, together with some salvaged cast-off fencing wire. Those of you who recall the sun gas experiment will perhaps remember the gasometer that I fashioned for that, which used to have lead weights wired onto the bottom of it to make it sink bell end down and thus pressurise the gas. The better for it to come out through the hose and the tap and be burnt. Well, today we're melting some lead, 3 of those balance weights. And because lead fumes are considered to be toxic and deadly dangerous, I have moved the proceedings outside the hut, even though I am using my kitchen stove. I have no idea whether this is going to work, but this is what I have constructed as a mould. The really truly observant of you will have identified that as the stainless steel base of a defunct solar electric, what they call a bollard light. I used a hole saw and a chisel to cut a rebate. I used a bit of wood to plug the hole from the drill in the hole saw, and my theory is, with a little bit of luck, perhaps possibly, the molten lead will congeal on striking the wood before too much of it comes away, and the whole thing is actually under compression from the twizzled wire. And the theory is that the piece of time expired fencing wire, which has actually got a bend on the end of it, will finish up. Can we show the bend? Yes, we can show the bend. It'll finish up embedded in a cylindrical chunk of lead, because that's what I want, a piece of wire stuck in a bit of lead. Okay, ingot number 2 has melted. Ingot number 3 going in. There we go. And I am ashamed to say this, that at age 58, this is the very first time I've ever had occasion to cast anything. However, I've seen my father cast aluminium, and I've seen other people cast what they call white metal. So how hard can it be? Maybe hard enough that I thought to put on my work boots. Right, so it's all melted, and my plan to try and keep the slag out of the pour consists in clamping an aluminium shield over the spout with the same pliers which I plan on using to lift the crucible off. Whether it works, I don't know, but I'm hoping. Right, let's see how this goes. Okay. Well, I lost a little bit of the lead. But perhaps this will work. And surprise, surprise, that appears to have actually worked. And now I have the choice between removing the stainless steel mould entirely or leaving the stainless steel mould in place. And yeah, because it's my first ever casting, I decided I'm happy to remove the mould. And I only actually lost that much escaped from the mould. Now you might of course be wondering, what do I want this for? Well, check this out. Those of you who are familiar with my channel will be aware that I'm in possession of a really old tripod and a new set of binoculars. Bushnell Trophy Extremes. And the true cognoscienti will realise that I went and I spent $20 for a tripod mount so that I could fit the new binoculars onto the old tripod, and then to fit the mounted binoculars onto my camera I made a bracket. And because when you're working in sheet metal you really have to paint things, otherwise they don't look finished. Here you can see the bracket in all of its glory. Sort of looks a bit better when you haven't got that neck strap hanging off it. And because I was having extreme trouble in acquiring a target and then focusing on it and zooming in and then correcting the focus, and it was all kind of getting a bit difficult, so I decided what I needed, particularly for moving targets, is a thing called an open ring and bead aperture sight. So without altering the alignment of anything, I'll just undo the eye relief remove the camera from the socket, and then there's the rear aperture and the front crosshairs. And if I'm honest, I got to admit that all of my life I've wanted to have something which required crosshairs and a ring and bead aperture sight. And not being into guns, I finally had to cobble one up for my camera and binocular mount. And I'm fairly happy with it. That's the view through the sights. And then replace the camera in its socket. And yeah, that is in fact what the camera's framed on, the center of the hub of the wind turbine rotor. So, it's taken me just about 2 weeks to get to this point. And of course, the next issue is balance. Because as you can see, that is your tilt axis. And just about the entire object, plus the camera, is back behind the tilt axis. So the whole thing constantly wants to nose up, and the only thing stopping it is tension on this compression screw. Therefore, one has a perceived need for a mass balance. And at the moment, it's slightly too heavy, so I'm going to have to adjust that by shortening it. And the fact that it remains just a little bit nose heavy at the moment is a good thing, because we have to allow for the weight of the camera in the socket. And I don't know, I may pretty it up by spray painting it black, or I may just leave it as it is, sort of like the tie-wired repairs, as a testament to the fact that this is the result of a mad scientist narrowly foiled in his creation of an infernal device. But ideally, it should permit me to get some 50 power telephoto images of overflying aircraft. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.